Hey everybody, this is Perch. My voice still sounds different. I think it's coming off better. I've heard. I went back and did something I always hate to do, which is listen to some old videos and just see how my voice is sounding. Sounded not too weird. I can still pick it up. The biggest part is the longevity of just being able to breathe. So it's being winded faster. Weirdly, I can exercise a decent amount, but talking is my problem. Which maybe there's a karmic kind of thing in there. Anyway, here's a mail about 20-year universes. Let's check it out. Okay, it says, "Hey Perch, I've been thinking about this idea for a long time. What do you think of the idea of comic book publishers going with a 20-year approximate universe? For example, DC basically rebooted in '85 with Crisis on Infinite Earths. What if they had wrapped up that universe in 2005? One complete story, beginning, middle, and an end." There's a major problem with this, but we'll get to it in a second. Same major problem that Hickman encountered with this X-Men story that had a beginning, middle, and end. And I know you all know what it is, but let's go through anyway. So the mail goes, "Think about it. The consistent soft reboots and reimagining of characters would be unnecessary, such as the ordeal of New 52. I mean, arguably, New 52 was that relaunch. Anyway, with some titles changing and others not, and then Rebirth changing things back, but not officially, etc., etc. No more renumbering series and endless new volumes and number one issues, which unfortunately not as many care about as they should. But anyway, mantle swapping for whatever reason would be greatly reduced. I'm not sure about that. Accessibility to new readers and in collecting in general would be increased due to a shorter history. That's true. That is one of the benefits that manga has, and it is a undersold benefit. It's like you can go to the bookstore and pick up the complete set of Demon Slayer in a box, and you can take it home and you can read it all and be done. And that's a pretty strong benefit. Anyway, long-term readership may actually be increased. Instead of a disillusioned reader looking for a jumping-off point, they may be swayed to stay with it to the end because they know one is actually coming, therefore increasing profits by producing 20-year readers. It's a good point. Totally agree. Timelines would make way more sense. No more 14 Robins or 872 Green Lanterns from Earth to try and explain. That's a good point. I mean, you would hope. Don't get me wrong. Stupid people could still go do stupid things where that's concerned, but we can see. Characters would stay consistent to their original characterization. Maybe. No more endless crisis and other retcons like Spider-Man's marriage or character sexual preferences. I have a feeling. I mean, you got to get the writers on board with this plan too. So it's. I hear you that a smaller confined timeline would make it less likely for people to do shenanigans with characters, but I think life would find a way, as they say. No need to try and do cartwheels as to how Batman is only 30 years old or how Snake Eyes is in a nursing home at this point. No more consistent retelling of origins and endless year ones, except those sell. That's why they do it. They spike sales. That unfortunately a lot of sales driven. Anyway, less need for alternate universe or Elseworld style stories, especially since story attempts such as Earth One or the Marvel Ultimates line that one day just seemed to stop. And so, what was the point? You can now start characters on day one and move forward with the story organically. New takes on the universe and characters can be done the next time around. Imagine collecting a full run of a universe that just evolves organically, tells a story, and comes to a conclusion. Yeah, I can't imagine that. That's manga. If you start reading 85, you would now be close to having two full yet distinct runs. Lifelong readers could have three. Or reader could just, for example, stop cleanly in 2005 with one nice full story of that particular universe. New fans could also choose between runs and then collect which universe run they prefer. Why 20 years? 30 seems too long and 10 is too short for comics. It just seems right. Yeah, 20 is for these kinds of things you're talking about, 20 is a good number. Has this ever been tried anywhere in comics before? I believe this needs to be pondered. Yeah. Anyway. So the problem is, so the idea is good. Don't get me wrong. The idea is makes logical sense. And as I say, you can look somewhere for it, in operation, and that's manga. Manga definitely operates this way. Usually with less than 20 years, but it still works. The idea of a confined story. Now, what it doesn't do is like pick up and then, like Crisis on Infinite Earths, something like Superman and Batman and everything went away. We got, a restart to those storylines. And then DC immediately started, messing around with it by, saying, do we remember pre-Crisis and who remember, that kind of stuff. And of course, that's the leaving the door open to, chaos. But the problem is simply this: it's these companies, Marvel and DC in particular. They are not in the business of trying to tell good organic stories. They're in the business to sell things, and ideally sell movie rights and sell license rights and all that kind of stuff. That's really what they're in the business to do. And because of that, I mean, look, Hickman had a beginning, middle, and end to his X-Men line. He was going to come in, he was going to shake it up, do his big status quo, and then who knows how it was going to end. One day we'll find out, but certainly seemed that at some point Moira was going to be murdered, the timeline would get reset, and we'll have had this one timeline where, this kind of stuff happened. It's sort of I don't know, it maybe where Moira's final life, she just doesn't exist in the new universe, and off you go. That's where they were. That's what was planned. What happened was the comic sold well. House of X Powers of 10 did much better than Marvel thought it would. The trades did way better. And at the beginning, it was like, we can't print this money fast enough. Suddenly you have all these comics, you could launch them with, very cheap creative teams. And that was part of it. And the comic, immediately figured out that it would sell 40,000, 50,000 copies. And that doesn't seem like a lot, but when you put out a very cheap product to make, and you could sell those kinds of numbers, hell, that's a gold mine. And it is seemingly, at least again for a while, you could just do that over and over and over, and suckers would keep buying it. You could suddenly have 8, 12 X-Men comics. I mean, an absurd amount of spin-offs and other things, and people were just eating it up. So what happens is, Hickman's plan for an end. It's like, yeah, we're going to keep this money train rolling. So no end. Let's just go indefinitely. And that's comics. That's where we're at. Go indefinitely. As long as that's the game, then a 20-year, I mean, look, if you have a 20-year time span, you get close to the end of that 20 years, and some of those comics are selling 100,000, 120,000. What's going to happen is they're going to be like, well, why would we stop this? Don't stop. Keep the money train rolling. That's what they would do. I think I think it's got to be true. Anyway, by the way, this mail had a follow-up, so we'll read that too. It says, "Hey Perch, I just watched your Comics Need to Grow Up video. Please see the solution below. This solution we just read. I'm convinced more than ever, having watched the aforementioned video, that a finite universe is a solution. Death in comics can be permanent. Spider-Man could have stayed married. Besides, the hardcore collectors will continue to collect regardless, and it makes more sense than trying to run two separate universes simultaneously, as is suggested. Anxious to hear your response." What you're saying makes logical sense, except where the money is concerned. Because, by the way, your argument of, but look at manga, it comes to an end, it raised sales, and then they came back for the next thing, and all the rest. It sounds good, but it is a leap of faith. The leap of faith you're asking people to say is, I know you're able to make like 40,000 a month off a lot of these comics, and here's an idea that would make you 80,000. So 80,000 units sold per month. But you gotta trust that the fans will come back. You gotta do something you haven't done before. And a lot of comic execs would look at that and go, yeah, no, we're going to go safe. We're going to go simple. And besides, if it ended at 20 years, then, how are we supposed to sell, video game rights and license rights and t-shirts and toys and all that kind of stuff? And once again, you can point to manga and be like, I don't know, they keep churning out One Piece games, and Demon Slayer's got a game, and My Hero Academia's got multiple games, and that kind of stuff and there's toys and all that kind of crap. You go over to Japan, and there's far more toys there than we see other places. Somehow they figured it out. But here in the U.S., that's not how license deals work. They tend to say, it's got to be ongoing. It's got to be kind of homogenous. And by the way, if we're paying you a lot of money for that license, then you can't really do anything major to Batman, because if you do anything major to him, then the license changes. That's why costume changes are often more subtle and limited when they do them. It's why, Spider-Man might get a new costume for a couple issues, but they'll go back to the old one. Basically, in doing that, they're saying, "Hey, video games, you could sell a new skin for this character, but we're going to keep it. We're going to keep it pretty much the same as always because the toys need to look a certain way, the shirts need to look a certain, the costumes. That's just it's a trap of the business. Now, in terms of me as a fan, your idea is great. I would love it. Sounds great, but it runs into a collision with business and with the money they make and how they make the money, and that's the fundamental problem. Anyway, thank you very much for the mail and suggestions. Thanks for thinking it through. Always appreciate that. What do you guys think? 20-year universes, is that the answer? Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe, and thanks for listening.